Hey Mia,
Hi, Angel.
is Beyond Two Souls pro-suicide? Oh no, it cut out again.
No, I'm just laughing.
So, this will be our final recap episode. We've both now played the entire game all the way through. If I had it to do over again, there probably would have been two recaps. But as people will have seen in our VODs, the story did actually start to build towards a climax. And I thought, oh, like, we must be pretty close to the end. And then it went on for like an additional 90 minutes past that. So there's
Right.
been a lot of gameplay for people to watch between the last recap and this one.
Oh, yes.
I was thinking that for the first time in the entire playthrough, the chapters rather, unfolded almost in chronological order, which
Yes.
was an inventive way to tell this story. So I was thinking that one thing we could do is sort of like actually take the chapters in the order that they're presented, and sort of talk through how it all unfolds. Because this last section, another thing that made it sort of compelling to go through all in one go, is that it was the most focused that I feel like the story in Beyond Two Souls has been for
Right.
this whole section.
Right. I concur, and I was thinking the same thing about the chronology of it. And yeah, I lead the way. I will follow in whatever direction we go.
And as we go, another note for people who are watching these recaps: this is the first episode that Mia and I have recorded after we started releasing the episodes.
Right.
So I've had an opportunity to now see a lot of the VODs that Mia has put out. So I'm more up to date with some of the differences between our two playthroughs. And I wanted to just say two things very quickly. Number one, if you were to choose one chapter that we both played through to get a sense for how widely things can vary, I highly recommend Homeless. Like, maybe
Yep.
we'll circle back to this at the end of this recap, but in Homeless, we did like as far to the opposite as you possibly could do in any given chapter. And the tone of the playthrough, the feeling that you get, the emotional ride that you're on in my playthrough versus yours feels completely different.
Yep. And I love that you shared that, because the homeless chapter, during my playthrough, because I have not actually watched any of yours yet, I wanted to finish the game first before I started watching you. And homeless hugely informed my decision at the end, and I talked about it while I
Interesting.
was playing. Yeah.
And then one other thing, just as we're going, because I grappled with this a lot when I first started playing, and then didn't talk about it so much after that. But if you were watching the VODs, one thing that may not be incredibly clear at first is just how rigid the controls are. There is a qualitative difference in how Beyond Two Souls controls in every situation where you are not Aiden. And then even then with Aiden, it can be so it's like floaty, and there's like it's got a different
Yeah.
feel to it.
Yeah.
But when you are in control of a character, it is difficult to articulate just how much you are fighting with the movement system and the camera to look around, to see, to get yourself oriented on what you're looking for. And in watching your playthrough, I see you like struggling a lot with that. And yeah, same here. I don't think that I talked about it nearly as much as I was feeling it.
I very much appreciate your sharing that. That definitely makes me feel better. It's not awesome that we had that experience with the controls, but that it was shared is heartening.
Yeah, and much like a lot of the things that we've talked about, I didn't have much of a difficulty with the camera work or the walking around in heavy rain.
Right.
And although it's been a year and change, I don't remember it being that much of an issue in Detroit Become Human. So I hope that when you move on to like Detroit, you will have an easier time of it than what this game has provided.
I am hoping that as well. Very, very much so. Because there was a decision that was made for me in the final chapter, or one of the it was in Black Sun. And there was a decision that was made, and it happened purely because I did not understand what it was that was being asked. And because of that, like, do we talk about this yet, or I
As
don't know.
far as
Yeah.
this, like, I'll also share on a similar note. This sequence of episodes also had a lot of very white environments in it, and
Hmm.
it turns out when your white interactive dot is being projected onto a white background, I
Right.
can't tell you what I missed. So yeah, it's not surprising when you say that like some decisions were made because you weren't sure what was being asked.
Right. And one critical decision, that choice was taken away from me, or it was made simply. It was not an active choice. It was just a result of misunderstanding the mechanics, and it was a big piece of the story, and that was very frustrating.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
I want to hear about it when we get there for sure.
Yes.
I So yeah, let's jump in. So like we talked about, this sequence of episodes were more chronological, starting off with I don't remember the name of it, but it was an early it was early in Jodie's stay with Dawkins and Cole, where she was sort of like hanging out and watching TV, and it's late at night and she's sleepy and bored. She doesn't want to watch TV anymore.
Right.
And um what was your takeaway? What was that one called? That wasn't Separation. That was, and it wasn't Hauntings. Do you remember the name of that one?
Night session, is that
That sounds right.
okay?
Yes. So tell me a little bit about your experiences there in Session.
See, that one didn't stick with me so much, so I'll have to I have to kind of rack my brain. Would you like, if you have specific things that you want to talk about? I'm sure while you're talking, things will pop up for me.
Yeah. So one of the an another reason that I feel like these episodes are really good to talk through chronologically is because they introduce completely new plot elements that have not
Right.
been available in the previous 10 episodes.
Right.
Starting with here in Night Sessions, we are introduced
Oh my God.
to so actually it's not for the first time, because in Separation, the scene where the chapter where Jodie is forced to go off with Ryan,
Yep.
uh, just super quick aside, I will at some point call Ryan Cole. I don't know at what point their names became swapped in my head. So if I say Cole, but I'm talking
Oh.
about a stupid asshole that ruins everything and is a big liar, I'm talking about Ryan.
Okay, understood. That would make me so sad if I thought
Yeah.
you were actually speaking in that way about Cole. All right, continue.
But in that episode, Jodie, or in that chapter, Jodie's sort of like channeling on different objects, and one of them is a music box, which
Yes.
in both of our playthroughs was the second object that we picked up. And it's clear that this is an item of personal importance to Dr. Dawkins, Mr. Willem Dafoe, but not how or why. And here in Night Session, we finally get some background on that. Jodie is going to go get a book, and she starts to see like these images, these visions of two very bloody women.
Yep.
And then Dr. Dawkins receives a phone call that he holds up to his ear. I didn't like sit there and time it, but it feels for about like 10 seconds.
Yep.
And then he hangs up the phone and shares with Cole that while his wife and daughter were on their way back from, I think, her mother's, a drunk driver swerved to the wrong side of the road and they've both been killed.
Right.
And you intuit very quickly that these are the two figures that Jodie is seeing.
Right. Right. And I appreciate your bringing this up, because one of the things I very much struggled with was the fact that, and it was directly related to the music box, when she oh, wait, is this so she was older? See, I was not understanding the timing of the music box event when when put against the fact that his wife and daughter had died, because I remember when she touched the music box and she said, I see a little girl or whatever, and he had this sad response and wanted to stop the session. And I believe she said, who was that girl? And then to find out that earlier in their life, like she knew that his wife and daughter had passed. So why did she not know? Like the timing didn't match up for me, and I think I might be confusing myself right now, but night session happened earlier. It happened when she was younger than the music box event. Is that
Yes. Yep.
okay?
Music Box was when she went on the day she went off to the CIA. So yeah.
Okay.
And
All
I
right.
my thought on it, let me see how you feel about this, is that I was wondering, does Jodie remember this? Because this was
Right.
when she was very young, she was
Right.
very tired. Part of what we see during, it's not in Night Session, but like a fo is I think this one is in Hauntings, like, she is out of her own body for a little bit. I'm curious how much of it, like, she certainly understood what was going on at the time, but has
Yeah.
this sort of faded over the ages for her?
Right. And I mean, I was actually just thinking about this last night. I don't remember the vast majority of my childhood. And so it might be, I know that's actually not that common, but it might be a case where she was young enough that she didn't remember. But I find that really surprising because how then would they not, with all of the time that they had spent together, how was that never again ever mentioned ever? I don't know. Especially with it being on his mind as much as it apparently was. I don't, yeah, I don't
Yeah, no,
know.
it's really good points. The other side of it is that maybe Jodie, like, we don't have reason to believe that Jodie saw Dawkins' family again as spirits at any point following that. So
Right.
maybe she she suspected who that little girl was, but like didn't want to presume. So she was asking like, "Hey, who was that?" And
Yeah.
it's it's left ambiguous for sure. Um, the other thing, it's interesting that that's like I hadn't really thought about that, so it's interesting because I was very preoccupied by the fact that Dawkins has the phone up to his ear
Right.
exactly long enough for someone to have said, "Dr. Dawkins, your wife and daughter were driving home, and a drunk driver drove on the wrong side of the road, and they're both dead." At which point he puts down the receiver and says, "My wife and daughter were trying." So there's like Willem Dafoe is a very good actor,
Yes.
okay?
Right.
So this was very, very poor direction by
Right.
whoever was working with him.
Right.
He's not given anything to work with, and by God, he does his best, but there's just the scene doesn't work because there simply wasn't enough time. I'm not arguing that he needed to, like, be on the phone for 15 minutes, but there's no
Right.
follow-up questions. "What?
Right.
Are you sure?
Right.
What are you talking about? Put
Right.
me on the phone with the doctor." There's none of that.
Right.
He just
Right.
immediately like, jumps all the way into acceptance.
Ish. But
Yeah.
yes, no, but for real. And there was something that seemed off about the way that he received that information. And I think you may have hit. I was not able to articulate it in my brain, and so I guess kind of moved on. But I think you've hit on what might have been going on for me. That I was like, okay, all right, yeah,
It feels like it comes very much out of the blue because
right,
we've like, back all the way back for, like, first interview, I think Jodie there's some acknowledgement that Dawkins has a family, and then they're really never brought up again. So, to reintroduce that idea and the idea that they died and, like, we might as well jump to Hauntings really quick because that happens pretty close after this one. It's not next in the actual sequence, but that's the one where I'm trying to remember how it opens, but I certainly remember how it ends, where Jody goes to Dawkins' office where he is bereft
right,
and probably pretty drunk. I'm trying to remember if he's got like some
yes,
yeah, a drink with him. And Jody is led by like I think it was a like the vision of Dawkins' daughter, wasn't it?
right, yes,
In there, and Dawkins has an opportunity to say goodbye to his family
Right.
in an event that we know then, haunted him for a very long time to come. But at the moment, it must have felt like an opportunity for closure.
Yep. Right, except that was not quite his response. Like when when Helen spoke to him, and by the way, I really appreciated the fact that he immediately knew it was Helen. Like, just how do you know when you're listening to Jody whether it's Helen or your daughter? But I guess if you know their voice. All right, anyway, he he was wanting more, I believe, at the end of that, when Jody came back to herself. He was saying, no, get to bring her back or whatever, and Jody said, I can't.
Yeah,
Yeah, so closure, I don't know. Like, I think he did get closure, but it wasn't enough.
Oh, yeah,
Right, yeah.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that maybe the motivation for his wife and daughter had been closure, and I don't think that's what he got out of it. I think that what he got out of it
Right.
was
Right.
they're still here, and I'm just being denied the opportunity to be with them. Let's fix that, and
Right.
that sort of, like,
Right.
sets them off on it. It's interesting to wonder how what we learn later on came to be. Like, how much of it was about Jody, the work with the CIA, uncovering, like, scientific realities, or his own personal quest, and those are none of
Right.
those are mutually exclusive.
Right.
I believe Dawkins personally cared for Jody,
Oh,
separate
yes.
and apart from everything else, but eventually those things come into conflict, and we'll get there.
Right.
I It reminded me of all things, and this might be a deep cut, but it's a movie that both you and I have seen, The Secret, with David Duchovny. It's the idea of being so close to someone that you love so deeply
Right.
and have lost, and they're right there,
Right.
and yet still out of reach.
Right.
And
Ugh.
that's a again, it's weird to have this introduced so late, and it
Right.
makes me wonder how much differently somebody would feel about this if they played the game in that new remixed order, so they were playing everything chronologically.
Oh, you know what? That's a good point. And I think, yeah, yeah. I mean, I actually spoke about when I was doing my summation. I spoke about the impact of telling this particular story, at least out of sequence. You get a lot of these aha moments where you go, "Oh, that's why. That's why she left the CIA, et cetera, et cetera." And I think telling it out of sequence, this aspect of it, you're supposed to, the intention is to have an aha moment. Oh, that's what happened to his daughter, who he gave the music box to way back when. But I think they were focused more on the aha and less on the practical aspects of that scene.
Yeah.
Now, I have a question for you. Did you look at your bonus content at the end of your playthrough, and were you able to access the one the only bonus content that I saw in the night mission scene, in the room where Jody looked for the book?
So, I don't know which bonus content pertains to which secret.
Right.
Is there a name of it?
No, I don't know, because I'm trying to rack my brain now to remember, even though this was just played a couple of days ago, whether I got it or not. But I know I spent quite a lot of time trying to get to. There was a little blue bonus secrety thing. Oh, I think I did wind up getting it, and it was hiding behind, it was in a corner of the room, and it was behind, I believe, an easel, and there were some boxes in front of it, so it was not easy to get to. But I tried and tried and tried, and then finally, what I realized is, speaking of like them introducing new new things so late in the game. To access all of the bonus content for these last couple of chapters, you had to press the sticks up, as opposed to the other times where you press them down or in. This one was you had to press it up off the screen, because I didn't even see where the dots went, but suddenly I got a notification that's saying I unlocked a bonus.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not sure that I found bonuses in the last section. I don't remember.
Okay, yeah.
And I don't remember that, like we were talking about, the camera does weird things in
Jesus
this
fuck.
game.
Yes.
Yeah. So after we do those, we talked about the sections where Jodie's like 7 or 8 years old.
Right.
And then we get into like the first of a couple different like big action sequences that lent to the idea that we were getting near the end of things with the
Right.
mission. What were your
Right.
thoughts on the mission?
Salim. Like, I'm so glad to be able to talk to you about this, because I wanted to chew on him. He was so. They picked an actor. I'm assuming there was motion capture on him as well. It was motion capture on everyone.
I expect so, yeah.
Yeah, he was able to elicit so much feeling. I mean, I have a fondness for mocha babies, but he just melted me, is all I'm trying to say. He just fucking melted me, and I wanted to eat him up.
It was remarkable to me how rapidly the game felt like it through almost every circumstance. You get the sense that Jodie's not in a lot of direct danger, but now suddenly you've got
Right.
somebody else that you are responsible for.
Right.
And there was, so like to talk through the event, we're getting briefed by Ryan, who's like, oh, you got to go in and get this warlord. And I'm
Piece of
coming
shit.
into it. I just want everybody to know I came to this whole game completely unspoiled, but I do know
Yeah.
one thing from past experience. I don't like Ryan, and I don't trust him, and I don't believe the things that he's saying.
Right.
Also, as an American citizen, you don't have to like pay very much attention to feel like you don't necessarily want to put a whole lot of faith into what the CIA tells you is true.
Correct.
So this whole setup was, I know what the target looks like. I don't know anything at all about what this person has
Oh my
allegedly
God,
done.
Angel.
Jamal Sheikh Sharif was the villain's name that we have to go get, and I don't know anything about him. I don't know anything about the nature of this conflict. I tried as best as I could to get to like bypass conflict and to avoid
Right.
killing people where I could.
Yeah.
But once Salim was on the team, it was very much a do or die situation, and I became more aggressive because I was concerned about his safety. I feel like Jodie's going to be okay. I have
Right.
no idea what the game has in store for Salim, or by the way, what I just we'll talk through the other things that happen, but like for example, throughout all of these like big action sequences, we eventually like get into the truck. Did you have a truck ride past a militarized checkpoint?
I did.
And there was a whole section where like you could hold down A to keep your head down. I did not let go of A the whole way in. I was very concerned that if anybody stuck their head up, Salim would catch one in between the eyes. I was
Right.
really worried about that.
I had a similar sense of urgency, to the point that to the extent that I would say 90% of my time was not spent looking around looking for bonuses. I was just trying to follow Salim, because
True. Yes.
which for me is a big thing, because false timelines, enforced urgency doesn't work for me. But it worked with Salim, and I was just, anytime they'd give us a shot of him just in the middle of the screen, I'm like, they're gonna kill him, they're gonna kill him, they're gonna kill him. Like, I was just waiting for the gunshot that would kill him. It sucked.
Yeah, big tone of like the first season of The Walking Dead, for example, the Telltale game, where you're not you're not there just for yourself. You have the best like escort mission is a big like negative in game
Right.
design. A lot of people don't like that, but in this case, it really works when you are urgently directly concerned for the well-being of whoever that you are guarding, and
Right.
Salim pulled that off really well.
Yes. Agreed.
And then so we're in the back of the truck, and this is
Oh, I
this is
forgot to
late in the
share.
mission. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is after like Jody. I was taking note as we went. Jody like went to the hotel. This is before she meets up with Salim, and she's like touching different objects, and she's getting like some backtrace on where her target went. And I noticed that like the people in the flashbacks weren't doing anything. They were just like talking, and I don't know what they're talking about,
Right.
but they weren't like I don't know. I didn't see any signs that they had prisoners, that they were torturing anybody. So I
Right.
was like, as it went on, and I was like, I still don't know why I'm being told that I need to kill. I kept looking for any indication that I
Right.
was here on a good mission, and none was forthcoming. We meet up with Salim. He's injured. Jody heals him. That feels pretty good. The two of them start working together, and then they sort of like Jody takes over the body of this guy, and Salim asked very few questions. I
Right.
will say.
Right. Well, I mean,
And
the sight of a little one with a machine gun,
mm,
in his hand was it gave you a lot of information about the world that he lives in. So it doesn't quite surprise me that he didn't ask any questions because this is just like daily life for him. But yeah, go on.
And like, as we learn more, because I, at no point in the mission did I have a sense of whose side anybody was on.
Right.
I was running around and trying to keep Jody and Salim safe. I had no like there are other actors in this environment that are fighting one another, but I don't know how to tell like which side is on the side,
Right.
which units are on the side of Jamal Sheikh Sharif and who are fighting against them. And I think that's intentional. I don't think that you're
Right.
supposed to be able to discern. I think it's supposed to feel chaotic, and all I know is that I need to get from here to there. But I was very confused when Jody got Salim into the back of the truck. We kept our head down all the way through the checkpoint. Very quick question: Did you make it? Did you quote make it through the checkpoint, or how did you navigate the checkpoint itself?
So it and just to share my experience in the back of the truck, I didn't understand the difference. I thought it was a visual difference between A and whatever not A was. So I was like, my head was down, my head was up, my head was down, my head was up. I kept bouncing back and forth until I finally went, oh, her head is up and visible. And then, that was a few minutes in. And once I recognized that, I believe I kept my head down after that. And then when we got to the checkpoint, I had two options. One was the hood, or one was the sunglasses. And again, I didn't realize what was going on until after I made the choice. I chose the sunglasses, which of course, once he put them on, I thought, oh, right, it's going to cover up his glassy eyes. And I just made it through.
That's exactly what happened to me. I
Shut
chose
up,
the
Angel.
sunglasses because I thought they would look cool. I had
Oh my
absolutely
God.
no thought in my head about this will help cover up the rolled back eyes until like then like the guard comes over and he seems to like say several things to the driver who
Right.
doesn't respond at all,
Right.
and they're like, well, that was the correct answer. Say and do nothing. You
Right.
passed the test.
I know, which felt like a real gimme. Like it definitely made me super curious about what would have happened had I chosen the hood of the truck instead. Especially when that came up as a percentage. like made it through the checkpoint. Oh, I'm like, wow, I really wish I knew what the other deal was. But
My
yeah.
guess based on the prompt, because I think it was like right trigger or something like that, I think it's run the checkpoint. I think it's like jam on the gas. That's my prediction.
Ew. Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
But then, so they get through this militarized checkpoint, and I actually think it's after that maybe that they're keeping their head down. I don't remember the sequence, but then they get out, and as soon as they get out, Jodie's like, "Well, I guess that's it. Thanks, Salim. I gotta go.
Right.
Best of luck to you." And I'm like, "Wait, why did you bring him here?"
Right.
As far as I know, we are now deep behind enemy lines. I don't have any reason to believe that Salim is like near. I think I said in my recording, Salim, I hope you know how to find your way back to whatever people you hang out with, because I don't know who they are or aren't. It seems
Right.
like Jodie has brought him into the most dangerously protected part of the environment, and then said, I was like, why did you bring him here? He was he was not
Right.
important to the hide in the truck scheme.
Right. I have no idea. And I also was going through that entire section going, you know, my American viewpoint, you know, about who's good and who's bad is completely irrelevant because I have no idea what this conflict is about. I don't, you know, I don't live in this culture. I have no idea, like, who the quote good guys are. And so I had, you know, like, why did Salim get brought into that area? It was just part of the I have no idea if what we're doing is the right thing, but I know that I was definitely uncomfortable with the whole thing.
And then another thing that I started wondering is Salim himself knows where he is and what's going on. I would
Right.
expect, like you said, this kid, you know, totes around an automatic rifle with him, so
Right.
he has some sense of like who he can and can't trust. Wouldn't he have spoken up about this idea? And then you learn as the episode goes on, oh, Jody was actually bringing him back to the people that he interacts with, which is why he wasn't alarmed.
Oh.
And I wanted to ask you at that moment where they part. So they've gone through the checkpoint. Now Jody's saying that, you know, I'm going to go off on my own. Salim says several things to her.
Right.
Do you think that Salim was saying some variation of, you know, we're safe here, let me bring you back to my dad, or something like that? Like, was he offering her safety?
I have no idea. Because
I would love to know his dialogue.
right, right. And the frustrating thing for me when I see stuff like that, especially now that I have a working knowledge of American Sign Language, I'm watching I'm watching at least Jody. I'm sorry, I'm moving around a bunch if my voice is fading in and out. But Jody is not. Jody is just speaking conversationally to Salim, but there's no attempt to express anything visually, which is bizarre to me because there are ways to communicate that don't rely on words, that even if you don't know a non-spoken language, why aren't you using more visual techniques to communicate? But I was trying to listen to Salim's tone of voice as he was delivering everything, but especially that last bit, and I could not get a read on it. Like I was looking at his facial expressions, and again, as I said, tone of voice, and I had nothing. So it was an interesting choice to not translate what was being said, and I think you have a good point about whether he was offering Jody safety, or the idea that he was offering her safety.
Yeah, I think it, based on what we learn later, I think it's at least possible that he was saying, you know, come with me, come to my dad. He'll, he'll be able to help you or something. But
Yeah.
of course, we don't know that at the time. there's a whole sequence then where Jody finally finds her mark, and he's like in this first story building. How did you get in there? Because I assume that you successfully got Jamal Sheikh Sharif.
Yes, which I was. I don't. I. As I was traveling through, I did kill people, and have them kill themselves, and I was not feeling comfortable with that. But I was especially uncomfortable with making this choice and the way that it was done. So I took control of a dude, and walked him around, got him into the room with Jamal, and then looked for a weapon, and I found an automatic rifle on a rack in one of the side rooms and just opened fire.
Okay, you were somewhat more successful than I was. I took control of a dude, tried to go in, got stopped at the door, which shook him out of being possessed. Yeah. Then I had to find a different dude to possess, was able to sneak an automatic rifle away from some guy who was like on a smoke break.
Oh, wow.
And then then I went around to the side window, because there's like a side window. There's no panes of glass. Sorry, go.
No, I'm so sorry. I was wondering about the side window and whether I should have done what I did from that position. That's so neat. Go.
Oh, that's exactly what I tried to do. And there was no option to just poke the barrel of the gun in there and unload. Like, it would have made all the sense in the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, the developer just didn't want us to do that.
Yeah.
So instead, walked in the front door, and then as I walked in, framed by the doorway itself, just opened fire and gunned everybody down.
Angel, do you know, I don't know why I neglected to mention this. I stood there for minutes, because what I was hoping would happen would be that it was, this was pre-firing. I had the, right bumper will obviously shoot the gun, and I sat there for literal minutes upon minutes going, if I wait this out, maybe there'll be maybe this is one of those situations where I don't have to kill the dude. And so I was listening to the conversation, trying to find out if it was on repeat. I was trying to do anything but shoot. And after 3 to 5 minutes of just standing there, refusing to do anything and not being able to do anything else, I pulled the trigger. But I tried.
And I would also, I did kill people on the way in as well.
Okay.
Whenever I saw an opportunity to not, I just sneak past someone, I would do that. But no, people for sure died on my way in as well. Because, like I was saying as I was playing, I don't know who's good, quote, good or bad,
Right.
unquote. What I do know is that these people will probably do harm to Jody if she is found. So on that understanding, I'm gonna act in self-defense. She's the aggressor here, she is the trespasser.
Right.
But I, as Jody in this situation, don't want harm to befall her. So I acted, as necessary in self-defense. But there were at least some guys I was able to circumnavigate without taking them on.
Nice.
But yeah, gunned everybody down, and then Jody says, "Well, I'd better get in there and confirm the kill."
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, hi, Jody, this might come as a surprise, but you have a ghost named Aiden. He can literally see that the man is dead right there. In Aiden mode, I zoomed right in on his face.
Yep.
That's him,
Yep.
dead. What are you going to do? I did an Assassin's Creed reference. Are you going to swipe a feather across his neck to get the blood sample? He is dead.
Yeah.
What more do you need? But no, Jody's going to go in there. So Jody goes in there, and from at least a storytelling standpoint, then it becomes clear why, because as Jody is standing there observing the carnage that she's wrought with Aiden, here comes Salim, who comes in and sees his father, and presumably his father. I think he says Papa or something like that.
Yeah, but it wasn't Jamal. I think it was another man sitting around the table.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. Well, and that broke me. I don't know. I yelled and just that was very impactful, and that was absolutely devastating. Um, and I let him shoot her. Like there was an option to move away from the gun, and I was like, nope. And I let Salim get a couple of shots off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But and I'd love to know what you did there. But with respect to why did Jody have to go in, I was curious about that as well. But then she took a picture. So I think the CIA needed photographic evidence.
It's interesting because I need a raise. Pay me more money. What is this? Like, to have accomplished the mission and then to put yourself into greater danger just to
Right.
provide the physical evidence that,
Right.
like, they trust Jody enough to go in by herself with no backup, no support, no real intelligence about the environment.
Right.
Say, off this guy, give us a call when it's done, and then we'll try to extract you. That was their
Right.
hot plan. If you can trust Jody that far, you can trust Jody to say, "Job's done. You got it. He's
Yeah.
dead." If you find out otherwise, you go ahead and dock my pay. But between here and there, we're done. Like, so I really did not think that she should go in there. But yes, let's for all of the positives and negatives that we've talked about with the story and its presentation Beyond Two Souls, for if their goal of establishing a clear and sympathetic reason why Jody broke hard ties with the CIA
Right.
and preferred being homeless and starving to death on
Right.
the street, contemplating suicide as we saw,
Right.
now we know. And I
Right.
will, if I had known in Homeless what I know now about what she had gone through in, like, probably just the intervening year or so, the preceding year rather,
Yep.
I would have had a lot more understanding as to why Jody contemplated putting that knife to her wrist.
Right.
And it's just I would understand more about where she was emotionally and mentally, and all we know is that she's being hunted by the CIA, she's being hunted by the government, but we don't know why. And now we know by the end of the mission
Right.
when she gets out. So let me ask you a quick question on her egress. In mine, she like got into a building.
Oh, God.
She was injured. She
Yep.
made her way up to the roof, and then Spec Ops came in and like evacuated her. Was it similar for you?
That was almost identical to my experience. Which also was weird because everybody was upset with her, but nobody was really firing except for like one guy got her, but they were all just going and I'm like, she would be dead by now. Why are they like, they're this angry, their intent is to kill her, why the fuck is nobody shooting? It seemed, not that I wanted them to, but I was like, that's taken me out of the story a little bit.
I wasn't sure if that particular group of people had a lot of guns with them. I didn't see one way or the other. Did you see like firearms among them?
I thought I did.
There's certainly no shortage of firearms every other place. So
Right.
yeah, you would think that there would be, somebody who would come after her, especially so like they get out and then as if we didn't dislike Ryan
Oh
enough,
my God.
they're in this cushy private jet flying home and Ryan's congratulating her. And
Right.
on the news, directly over his head, they start doing a news story about the death of the democratically elected, like pro unification, popular consensus president of whatever country this was. Jamal Sheikh Sharif has been murdered by some sort of sectarian violence. And Ryan doesn't even react.
Right.
Like, it's not like Jody was wearing earbuds and like he couldn't hear the news. And he just,
We had our orders.
yeah.
Like this unthinking fucking buffoon.
And like she says, "You lied to me." And Ryan says, "What are you talking about?" Like it's, oh my God. And so Jody gets upset. The helicopter, I guess it was was it a helicopter or a jet now?
That
It was a
was,
jet?
oh, You know what? Well, it was private, like the
Yes.
private whatever, because that's important.
I think it started spinning. I thought, boy, you can tell it's been a few days since I
Right.
played it. Whatever it is, it starts to go out of control because Jody has a negative effect on electronics
Right.
by way of spirit, and then she just throws herself out.
I know.
I'm not even sure that she had. I'm not even sure that she knew that Aiden could protect her on the way down. She was just like, "Nope, I'm done.
Yeah.
I will not be in the room with Ryan anymore." It's like you and me both.
Right. Now, wait, I have to ask. Did was that the scene in which he suggested to her, hey, maybe we can get a fresh start and be together? Was it there?
I don't. I
Oh
think
no,
that
I think
came
that might have
later.
been later. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and so a quick question. I think I know the answer. At the beginning of the mission, Jody had an opportunity to kiss Ryan or move away. Move away, right?
Oh yes. I think it was cold, distant, a couple of other things, but I almost missed my opportunity to be cold to him because I was like, oh, I like all of these rejection options. Like, which one do I want? But I think cold, yeah. And yes, I
And
moved the
so
fuck
that's the
away.
mission, and that we now know sort of sets up um Hunted, where she's on the train, and then
Right.
Homeless, and a lot of the trials that she goes through following that. And now you have the background on what motivated all of that and what made it all worth it. And yeah, and then there was the just it going out almost on the flashback of the look on Salim's face as he grabbed this pistol and
Oh
started
God.
like shooting at her. And you feel like you see the exact moment that any hope or faith in humanity is like knocked out of this kid who's
Right.
already been through so much. And
Right.
that's what's haunting Jody. It was an effective moment for this game.
Yes, I 1000% concur. So you did not let him shoot her?
No, I tend to act in like self-defense for whatever character that I am. And no, she put up her Iden shield immediately, and
Okay.
his bullets were ineffective.
Okay. 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 That's interesting. It's not surprising. But yeah.
Did his bullets were Salim's bullets for you the cause of her injury when she was like getting medevaced? Because I think mine came from something else.
I think mine came from something she got hit in the leg and was struggling with that, but I believe he shot her in the shoulder. I believe.
Oh man, and you had said, oh, just to circle back very quickly to an earlier conversation, like we said, I've now gotten to see some of yours. You were absolutely right that in your version of Separation, Jody ripped up the picture of her like family, her father, and
Yes.
I didn't go back and rewatch mine, but I'm pretty sure she didn't, and that's a really interesting little difference between our playthroughs. I'd have to
Right.
double check, but I do not remember her ripping up the photo.
And you also shared that you saw the moment where I had Jody choke her
Hmm.
dad out, and you saw mom's response to that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true horror at
Yep.
like. I thought that Jody was an innocent little girl. I guess not, which is one
Yeah.
of those many things that if that's the version of the playthrough that you have, those experiences become part of your understanding of Jody, her journey, and like the character in the world, and that's going to go on to color your interactions with others. Same with Homeless.
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
So after the mission, we understand that Hunted and Homeless and some of the other things, Navajo, I think all
Yeah.
occur in there, and then we rejoin Jody in Progress for a little segment called Old Friends and Nora.
Yes.
Apparently, these two chapters
I know.
happen right back to back. With no sort of interstitial, no little load screen between them. She
Yeah.
gets together with Cole,
Yeah.
and I boy, these two sections were a real roller coaster, followed
Mm-hmm.
by like what I feel like was a lack of resolution for what happens. Jody gets together in the park with Cole. The two of them catch up a little bit. I think I asked some questions about Cole specifically, and I didn't really talk about Nathan, Dr. Willem Dafoe.
Right.
And then it becomes clear why they've come together. Jody has asked Cole to look into information about her mother, and Cole has come through for her. And Jody's mother, Nora, is locked up in this high security mental facility. Jody resolves that she's going to go there, and Cole says, "Well, you didn't think I was going to let you go alone." And when we then cut to the parking lot outside the place, I think I said something to the effect of, Cole is too good for Jody.
Oh my God.
He's so good for her and so supportive in ways that, sorry, let me let you chime in on that.
I was saying similar things. Like, he is such a good man. And I was having the same response. I was also going, boy, I was voicing for Cole, this sure looks familiar. Remember the last time you and I were in a car together? Fuck the fact that they never addressed that. But then, and this was my own little personal thing, he called it there were two things that Cole said that soured me just a hair. And I think it is just because the writers, this is my thought, the writers didn't understand the impact of these phrases, but he called it a mental hospital. And he said, then later on, he said, oh, these crazy people really freak me out. And that sucked. That smacked of narrow-mindedness or naivete or ignorance about mental illness. He presented it as a, quote, loony bin. It's not a mental hospital. It's a psychiatric facility. And you don't call people who suffer from mental illness crazy. And it really bugged me. So that, later on in the scene where I was going, oh, Cole is this is a good man. Then he goes and says something kind of ignorant, and I was like, ugh.
Yeah, and I think you're right. That's that's an issue with the writers and the way that they're presenting it. Mm-hmm. I may also have just used an incorrect phrase. Here's a question: is sanitarium, is that an appropriate phrase, or is that also antiquated or wrong?
I feel like that's antiquated. I don't know if it's wrong, but it definitely, when I hear the word, excuse me, I'm eating cookies. When I hear the word, for me, I have images of the facilities that you see in the movies from way back when, and they've got people roaming the halls screaming or peeing themselves or ripping their hair out, talking to themselves. I don't know.
So psychiatric hospital, is that the right phrase?
Well, I feel like a psychiatric facility. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of names for it. It was just, and I don't know that mental hospital is necessarily wrong or rude. I just think it was ignorant. I don't know. It just, I don't know that I can explain it more than that. It was just a feeling that I got, but definitely the crazy people thing. Did you get that line?
Probably, and
Okay.
I don't think I keyed in on it because a lot of my attention in that section was spent on at two previous points in Beyond Two Souls. The game has underscored the importance of knocking out security cameras when you're somewhere that you shouldn't be.
Angel.
One was in Homeless, where you go to break into the grocery store, and if you knock out the camera, that's a big deal. And then the second one was in the embassy. It's one of the earliest chapters. It's if you're going to pull off this mission, make sure you distract the security guard, get the cameras off you.
Yeah.
So here are Jody and Cole breaking into this high security facility. There's cameras all over the place. Cole is charging ahead at maximum speed, and I'm racing around with Aiden trying to knock out the cameras. And then unlike the two previous sections that I talked about, it doesn't appear to matter at all.
I know.
That was...
Angel,
no.
sorry, just real quick. That was my first instinct. All I was focusing on was camera, 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 and then plot. But sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, same thing. There's a screenwriting tenet that I think that you're probably well aware of, that you show the audience something, you remind them of something, and then you have the payoff of what that means.
Right,
Here, the game introduces the idea that knocking out the security cameras are important. Then they underscore that with whether or not you can get away scot-free and homeless. And then
right,
here, in a situation where the stakes are higher than they've ever been,
right,
Jody is wanted by the government. She'll be easily recognizable. She's in a facility where her mother is. The authorities might be watching this place, and the camera doesn't matter at all. It's
right.
it's weird.
It's yeah,
Just don't have the cameras visible. They're
right.
like built into the wall, and Jody doesn't know what they look like, so it's not even a thing. It would have made the pacing of this whole section way like I would have finished it in half the time if I wasn't like scoping for cameras.
Yes, yes. Now, what was the technique that you used to distract the guard?
I tried many things. At first, it seems like the only thing that you can do is flip the switch, which he immediately notices.
Right.
And then I tried like playing with the radio, which made him turn
Yep.
about like 40 degrees. And I was like, okay, I'll throw it right now. Oh, LOL. No, you won't. It just
Right.
doesn't allow you to do that. I eventually got through by playing with the electrical panel behind him.
Oh, how interesting! I didn't even see that option. I was, excuse me, specifically trying to choose things that I thought were not going to be the thing that would work just because I wanted to try all of them. But I think the third thing that I chose was the computer, the tower underneath his desk. I blipped that out and he crawled under his desk to check it out, and then we got by.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a couple different ways. I didn't see that. I tried a few different things, and then the electrical panel like caught my eye, did that, he turned around,
Yeah.
and in we were.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did you explore with Aiden on your way over to like Jody's mother's room? Like beyond just
Yes.
smashing cameras?
Oh yeah. Well, I didn't go into anyone's rooms. It's suddenly occurring to me. I don't even remember if I tried.
So here's a cool detail, and
Oh wow.
if you go into some of the rooms, because I was just like exploring, I wanted to see what there was to see. I wasn't necessarily looking for room numbers, which in retrospect would have made way more sense. But I was just sort of like going around with Aiden from a safe position to see what I could scope out. Are there guards around? Are there cameras? Is there a security room? And as you go into the different rooms, the residents of this facility address Aiden by name.
Oh.
I don't remember exactly what they say, but something like, "Oh, hello, Aiden. I see that you're here now." Like I don't like they both address both Aiden and Jody by name. They are aware that Aiden is
Whoa.
there, and they are aware that he is attached to someone named Jody. One of them specifically says something to the effect of, "Jody, do you really think you have what it takes to save this world?" or something like that, which was suitably unsettling, and I liked a lot.
I don't. I love that you did that, and I can't wait to look at your footage because that would have made so much sense. And you know what was happening for me is I was hearing patients from inside their rooms, and they were making those sanitarium sounds. There was somebody talking to themselves, or crying or yelling or something, and I think that turned me off so much because I was just like, right, of course, because this is what it looks like in a psychiatric facility. They were just doing the stereotypical thing, and I think that probably just was all I needed. I'm really glad you did, though. I can't wait to look at it.
I feel like the implication is that this is not only the place where Jody's mother is, but also maybe other people that were experimented on
Mm-hmm.
or by the DPA, and they are aware of the infraworld and can perceive Iden, like whatever it is that they are going through, they are perceiving actual things, which in this case include Iden, who I
Right.
guess is also wearing a name tag because it's not like he introduced himself. He just wanders in and they immediately know who it is.
Well, you know, Angel, they're crazy, so they have special powers. How did you get past the how did you initially get past the dude at the desk? Because Cole says, "Here, let me try." To get past, and he just says, "Hello, I have level 3 clearance." Like it was so silly. Oh, you know what? Never mind. I'm thinking about the next scene. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so then Jody, like they do find Jody's mom, and she is as described, catatonic, sitting in this chair, just staring off into space, does not respond to Jody at all. I thought it was very touching when Jody lifted up her mother's hand and like put it to her own cheek. Like, this is clearly a connection that she has been thinking about for a very, very long time. But there's just Jody's mother isn't present
Right.
for her. And then Jody is, by way of Iden, able to make a connection in, I will note, exactly the way that we were saying that we would have wanted her to make connection with grandmother during Navajo,
Right?
bridging this like gap where this person is not able to communicate, but still alive, like still desirous of having contact, but they just like that link has been severed. But now Jody can interact with her mother and finds that, yeah, she's been sort of like chemically disabled and has been kept in this stupor for decades now.
Ugh. Which is a living nightmare, and it just is. And I kept yelling, you know, why is this so dire? Like, let's unplug her. You know, let's get her out of here. Why isn't stopping the drugs an option? Did you think that at all?
I was definitely wondering that. I wasn't sure how plausible it would be to like transport a whole person out when she can't like ambulate on her own at all. But
Yeah.
it's something that you want to try, right?
Right.
Like, let's at least give it a shot. Jody's awfully potent when her emotions get keyed up. Like I
Right.
don't know what governs what Iden can and can't do, but it definitely
Yes.
seems tied to Jody's emotional state.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then
Yeah.
did you take the locket?
Oh, you mean the medallion? I have fucking the medallion. Um, I did. I did. Did you not?
I did, and
Oh,
I
okay.
assume that you did as well, because like 97% of people.
Yes.
I didn't know that there was a medallion at stake. I wasn't looking for a prize or a memento. I
Right.
thought it was like going to be like hug your mom.
Right. Oh, that's so interesting. And then
And
oh, go.
oh no, I maybe you were about to talk about it. I am very curious how you
Right.
ended things with Jody's mom, and specifically how, because I was really surprised at the percentages at the end.
I how did I absolutely freed her from this nightmare, and I am now not remembering what the hell did I do? Oh, it was I think it was an Iden thing where I had to use the controls to let. Oh my god, why am I not remembering, Angel? What did you do?
Did the game clue you in on any way that that was something that you could do? Because I went all the way over to the door, and then, absent any prompt, decided to take one last look around with Iden, and
Right,
then I saw that there was an option to interact with mom, realized very quickly what it was,
right,
and went ahead because of what you said. It was
right,
mom doesn't directly ask Nora doesn't directly ask to have her suffering ended,
right,
but she does say, "There's nothing for me. It is only waiting for the end."
right.
And based on that, I was like, I don't want to leave her waiting for another 20
Yeah,
years.
no.
But
It
then
was the
at the end,
kindest thing, the
sorry.
most compassionate thing you could do. And
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, at the end.
The percentages for people who've done it was like 70% or something. I don't remember, but I was wondering, like, if you don't do it on your own, does Jody like say something? Did she prompt you in any way, or you were just like, I'm gonna check things out with Aiden?
I think I just checked things out with Aiden.
Wow.
I didn't get any indicator that I am aware of.
I was thinking that it would be a very small percentage of people in that scene who would then like Aiden up to check things out, and maybe
Shut
only a
up.
subset of those people who would then decide to go through with the euthanasia. So I was just very surprised that a large majority of people made the same decision.
See, that's interesting because I now I'm trying to remember which. Oh no, it was the final decision. Never mind. I keep conflating everything. You were
And
surprised that a lot of people chose to end her suffering?
I was surprised that a lot of people like saw the option,
Oh,
because at least
sorry.
for me there was, but like, yeah, even I'm thinking to myself, if half of the people who play this game think in this moment to like switch over to Aiden, then only some of those people, maybe most of them, but only some of those people are going to go ahead and like, kill Jody's mom. So I was just surprised when the percentage came back as high as it was.
Got
It
it.
was
Got it.
very high. And
Understood.
I just sort of thought that like it's kind of like, did you fix the bike in Navajo? And like 15% of people did that. Right.
Right.
We didn't know there was a bike.
Right.
So I'm thinking the
Right.
same way, like, we didn't know that there was an option to end her suffering.
Right.
And then so you Jody does then leave the room
Yeah.
and comes out into a situation where guns are aimed at her. Cole's hands are up on his head,
Right.
and he says to
Oh,
her,
yes.
"I'm sorry, Jody."
Yes.
Describe to me what that means.
Right. You know, you describe it to me. I have no idea because I was okay. Did he set her up? Was this all a setup? And
And I
yeah.
think the answer is yes. Because I'm thinking to myself that if I'm in Cole's shoes and I've gotten got outside the hospital room, Cole, like what I would say is, Jody, I had no idea. Jody, they jumped to me. Also, if I wasn't in on it, I feel like the soldiers would have dragged me away separately, so I wouldn't have a chance to warn Jody, to shout anything out or anything like that.
Yeah.
Cole is standing there in a submissive position. Like, he's not there to make trouble, but he is still like physically right there, and he says, "I'm sorry, Jody," which feels like a de facto confession.
Right. So then why were his hands on his head?
To I don't know.
Right,
I
because
don't.
yeah, he
It's
didn't need to keep up any pretense because it all happened at the same moment.
And they never settle it.
Nope.
They never talk about it again. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like a lot of things happen after that, but just like we were never provided a scene where Jody and Cole come to terms with the fact that she took his
Mm-hmm.
body and walked him into the woods, she doesn't feel any sort of way about this, what you would think of as being a pretty deep betrayal. Cole leveraging Jody's desire to know what happened to her mom, going through this, the emotions of like being there, in her case, in both of our cases, for the moment of Jody's death, and Cole using that as an opportunity to press her back into service for the CIA. This would feel like a very, very deep betrayal, you would think, and they just never address it.
Right. And one of the things I spoke about in my wrap up was I think the story itself is intriguing and unique, but I think the interpersonal relationships lacked nuance. Like, I think they were very simplistic. Like, the fact that it really turns out, and we'll talk about this, but Ryan actually loves her. What? Like, since and how is he was really seriously set up to be the love interest. And I'm like, do the people who like animated him not understand facial expressions? Like what? And so I think there is some of that going on. They didn't, the relationships were merely a setup for plot points. So what they needed to do is put Jody in the position of getting assaulted in the bar. The fact that she used Cole's body and the implications that would have, that's not important. We're not going to focus on that, because the important thing is we needed to get her to the bar. And so similarly, I think the important thing here was we need Jody to get back to Dr. Willem Dafoe and then find out all of this other shit. But leaving that, I mean, I don't know if that I'm sorry was like, oh, Jody, I'm so sorry this happened. But whatever it was, the fact that there was no follow-up after that, it just all smacks of that lack of depth within the relationships.
Yeah, there's a distinct lack of consideration for like how would a human feel about this, and I think that you're very, I think you make a very, very good point about the character moments are used as fuel for the next plot point rather than to develop the characters.
Right.
And another reason that I have to go with Cole helped get Jody set up here is that Cole then just goes back to work. In, as far as we can tell, very short order. He's just back at the lab,
Right.
like a little bit later in our story. If I talked when they were going into that facility, Cole is risking, he's introduced to Jody that he's in charge of his own lab now. He's got his own team. He gets to do like the work that he's interested in doing. All of that is theoretically at risk by Cole helping her to break into a secure government facility.
Right.
And at the moment, it feels like, wow, he's a fantastic friend. When he is then caught, the next time that we see Cole, he's just back at work. So
Right.
I have to go with this was a setup. And it is so odd, but no more odd than Jody getting rifle butted into unconsciousness,
Yep.
waking up in this opulent office,
Yep.
seeing what appears to be a large black hole outside. And then when Nathan shows up, Nathan, oh, it's so good to see you. It was surreal.
It was, because I was sitting there going, like, we woke up there and I was like, yeah, this is Dr. Defoe's office. It absolutely is. And he was a villain. Like, Angel was right about, like, how it's so hard to see Willem Dafoe playing a non-villain, but it turns out that he was the villain. And then their response is to be excited and hug each other. I was just, I don't know, gobsmacked, I think is the word here.
He takes her back to the office.
Yes.
They sit down for a nice chat. He
Yes.
says, how have you been? And she says, well, she literally says, well, you know, the knock on the head didn't help. Is this a Rosie O'Donnell bit? What is happening?
Right, Angel. Thank you. Yes.
It is. There are some emotional snaps in this game that are. You guys have only read about human emotions in like Elle magazine, like it's so. And you again, they're working with professional actors here. You have to assume maybe they just go in and do what they're told. But you would really think that Willem Dafoe, Elliot Page, Eric Winters, who's the guy that plays Ryan, that they must have like looked at these pages and been like, so sorry, walk me through the motivation here. I just got butted in the head. I got knocked unconscious, and how do you want me to deliver this line? I'm just reuniting with my surrogate father. Everything's cool. You're sure about that?
Right.
Is this like Mia, I thought that like maybe it was like a jump forward in time like this is 3 years later,
Right.
and like, but no, this is where she wakes up.
Yep.
It's mild concussion and just a friendly chat.
Right. And when you search the room, you see that there is a camera in the office that is turned directly onto the couch where she woke up. So, like, is this just a thing? This is just a habit? Like, so much so
For old
that,
time's sake.
yeah, right. Right. Okay. So, right. So there's that.
And so all of this, like the whole Cole setup and everything is, Dr. Defoe wants Jody to go on one last mission. We need you to go do this thing. It's the big important one. And this is, by the way, why this sequence of episodes got so long. It was like, oh, this is going to be like the last mission. Okay, yeah, that won't be enough time for us to do another recap. So I'll just do the one last mission.
Right.
The dragon's hideout, and then we will then we'll have the whole story.
Right.
But yeah, he says to her, you do this and you're out. No more running, no more homeless, no more hunted. You're out, new identity, you're free and clear. And it seems unlikely based on what Jody can do, but the offer is too good for her to refuse. And then we get introduced in the briefing to probably my
God.
favorite individual character,
Oh my God.
General McGrath,
Uh,
who talks like Family Guy's version of oh balls, his name just fell out of my head. The who played Qui-Gon Jinn? Everybody who's listening to this now is like yelling his name. The Family Guy version of the guy in Taken.
Liam Neeson.
Liam Neeson. Yes. General McGrath is clearly from like Scandinavia,
Yes.
by way of like France. He tries so hard to sound like an American general, but every fourth word has this odd pronunciation or inflection to it.
Yep.
I was so delighted. It doesn't. I'm just letting you know, it doesn't come through in the VOD. I was so excited every time this man opened his mouth.
Really?
It was all over the place.
That makes me happy.
If anybody here has not made the acquaintance of Naman Jaden from the world of Heavy Rain, this is your Norman Jaden. He is, oh my god, he's within the scope of like the fiction, just like the biggest dirtbag. But
Right.
I was so happy when he was talking.
Yes. Oh, I'm. Yeah. I don't have anything more to add.
If I had any hope of like replicating the way that he talks, I would do it now. I urge you all to watch the VOD and to listen
Yes.
closely. Americans, like at least in the United States, do not speak this way.
Right.
It was a lot of fun. I don't know who they got to get that voice. Big thumbs up though for the casting
That is
decision.
awesome.
And so he is, so a country which I don't remember the name of the company, but the country rather, but it's like
Kazakhstan, Kazakhstan, because it
Turkic
wasn't Kazakhstan.
Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. They have opened a rift. They've opened a passage, and it's the Armageddon all over again. And we need you to find where this is and get it closed. And to help you out, we are sending in the entire CIA, which is, by the way, these three guys. They're
my
all the
God.
people that Jody hates the most.
I know. Actually, Angel, I have an odd request. I actually need to take a bio break. Do you want should we pause the video, or do you want to talk for a minute while I'm just running to the bathroom real quick? I'm so sorry.
You know what? Let's cut it into a couple pieces. Like in the
Okay.
VOD, it'll just cut forward to the next episode, and we will see
Perfect.
you guys all in just a few seconds.
All right.